Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Dan the Fix-It Man. Got another quick video here for you. I'm going to show you how to change your power window motor on a 2002 Toyota Tundra. We'll just get started with the switch here. If you just get a screwdriver in this end over here and just press in on this little tab right here, and then that allows you to lift the back end, pull back on the front. There's a little clip here as well, and then we can pressing these connectors and pull them out. And we'll set this aside. Next we'll do the door handle trim here, which is just a Phillips screwdriver. Set that screw aside, and then with a small little flathead screwdriver you just come in here on this part just above this little locking portion and just pry that up, and then on the bottom part just pry that down, and then that should allow you to free this up, and then you may have to pull on the handle to take that piece out. We'll set that aside as well. Okay, now moving on to the handle, there's two bolts in here. These are just little plastic covers. Looks like this one's already loose, but just kind of pull that up to expose the bolt. Once we have these two 10mm bolts exposed, we can pull them out. We'll set those aside. Now these two little circles over here in the door, same thing, we just need to pull them out. They're just like little caps. Looks like this one's been out before, but just remove those. There we go. That exposes these two little Phillips screws that are in here in the door in the upper part. Okay, now down here at the bottom of the door, just pop these little snaps that are in there. Once you get a couple of them popped, you can sometimes just pull on the door panel. It'll pop the rest of them. All right, now that the panel is loose, we can lift it. Just pull it out a little bit to clear the handle, and then just kind of wiggle it loose. Now it's still connected here to the speaker in the front and to this light over here. This is our front speaker, little tweeter. Just press that in. Here we're connected here as well, this light. So just press that in, pop that out. Whoops. I accidentally popped out the light assembly there for a second, but all we're trying to do is just pull out that connector. Now the door panel is completely free. Now this motor is working somewhat intermittently. Right now it is up. I'm going to have to lower it to line up these access holes to be able to unbolt the window. So I'm just going to plug it back in and drop the window. If you do need to test the switch or verify that it is the motor, I actually had already done this. I pulled back this sheet right here, this connector to the motor, and then with the switch connected and the power on, got my multimeter voltmeter probes in here and tested or verified that we're getting power up and down. One will show negative, the other one positive. So that verifies that we were getting power to the motor. But what's happening is this will work and then it will stop working. It's almost like it's heating up. But I'm going to see if I can drop it right now. There we go. Now it's not all the way down. I'll show you what I've done here. You can see in here, I'm going to peel this back. You see that bolt right there? That's what's connecting the window to the regulator. So just needed to line that up with this access hole so I can loosen and remove that. Other ones on this side right here. I'm just going to peel this plastic back so that we can have access to the window. Remove the switch again. I try not to tear these, and put them back. Usually this black goop just kind of sticks back on once you're done. And of course that fell inside the door, that's alright. That one too. I'll rescue those out from the inside of the door. Okay, now I'm just going to pull the window up and leave it inside the door. Pull it up, and then what I'm going to do is just tape it up. Some duct tape. Of course this will leave some residue that'll need to be cleaned off, but it seems to hold the windows up pretty good. I've just got it taped up and out of the way where it's not going to fall down and cause any damage. More importantly, it's free from the regulator, and now we should be able to unbolt that and remove it. Now before we can get to these bolts that hold in the regulator, we're just going to pull back some more of this plastic, and you can see that our speaker wire connector is in the way. So let's just undo this one here. And then this one right here. This is like a little snap. It's like snapped through the plastic. Same with this one up here. And sometimes these come out. There we go. So just pop that one out. Slowly loosen. Pull this guy out here. These two little tabs are just snapped into place, but we can now pull those out of the way and pull the plastic back and expose these bolts that we need to remove for the window regulator. This side here, I've got one more of these little plastic snaps. We pull that out. Looks like this one had already come out. I'm just gonna use some tape and tape this plastic up out of the way here as well. Alright, now before I take out the bolts for the regulator itself, I'm going to disconnect the motor. Just this electrical connector right here. Pushing that tab, pull it out, and we'll go ahead and pop this connector out of this little hole here as well. There we go. And then we can take out these 10mm bolts here. And there's this one that's underneath this little metal flange. It's kind of hard to get to, but I'm just using a little 10mm offset box end wrench here. This should now come off. Just watch your fingers. That'll pinch you if you're not careful. And then just pull it out through this access hole. Okay, so we've got the old motor here on the regulator. See, you've got these three Torx bit. They're T25, and we can go ahead and loosen and remove these screws. Okay. Our new motor does not come with the factory harness, so we've got to cut and splice this one. Let's do that real quick. Make sure we've got enough length here. I'll just cut it right about here. And then I'm just going to peel back some of this shield here and then feed the wires back through where we've got pretty obvious our red and our green. Now this kit comes with these little connectors that you don't have to solder or anything. They just snap in place. So they look like this. They're little 3M connectors. This is pretty simple. You just push it in into the connector, and same with this side here. You can just press that in place there. You just line them up. Once they're lined up like that, just snap this down, and that presses that thing together, crimps it, and locks it in place. There we go. Give it a pull, make sure that that's nice and solid. It looks good. Same thing with this side here, like that, and then just fold it over and crimp it into place. See if we can't squish that down enough to get this to crimp like that. There we go. I think I'm going to just zip tie this back on just like the factory one was set up. By the way, there is this little plastic deal right here. I don't exactly know what it is. Looks like a little L, little brown L that's snapped in here. Well, since it was on the original one, I'm going to transfer it to this. I don't know what it's for. Maybe it's just an indicator that this is the left side, but okay, and then we should be able to get this back on the regulator like so, and we'll put these screws back in. Of course, this is a great time to get in here with some grease Grease all the moving parts with some white lithium grease. That looks pretty good. All right, let's head back over to the truck. So just a quick note on that. When changing out the motor, it is a good idea to clamp this in place. You can see it is spring loaded. So clamp this in place before you take off these 3 screws and change the motor. I didn't do that. I kind of just let it go and it sprung, and what that did is that moved the position of the motor. I will show you how to reset the motor. It relearns. It's basically a pulse sensor or switch, so we can relearn the position. That's not a big deal, but to get it back in and line up for this access panel to put the screws back in or put the bolts back in through the window, I took this back off and moved it or lined it up to where it's really close. I've got it so that it will line up and I'll be able to put the window back in. So learn from my mistake. If you can, just put a little C-clamp or something before removing these 3 screws. It'll save you a little bit of headache. Just another quick note on these connectors. I realized that I hadn't pushed the metal part all the way in. I was just trying to push this closed, so I had to take these back off. I realized it wasn't making a good connection, and I thought my motor was bad. So this little metal tab, I had to press those in with some pliers, and then now you can see that closes easy. So now this is ready to go back in. Just come in through the access panel here. You can grab the connector, put that through, and then I'm just looking for this right here, the bolt. We'll just put the nut on there, and then you can see we can just line up all of our other bolts right here. We'll get these all started by hand. This one up here. Now this, you might have to move it or turn it a little bit. I'm gonna bring you over here. See this one right here? Just get that lined up. See if I can do that. And remember this one over here, up underneath. Probably the hardest one to get to. Of course, you could take off these 3 10mm bolts to take off that metal plate or the handle, but this works. So now we can snug up the rest of these. And we can go ahead and reconnect this right here. Carefully grab onto the window and just lower that down right there. So you see we've got the window lined up, and then we'll get these 10mm bolts in here. The other one is right through this little access hole right here. Before we put everything back together, I'm just going to grab the switch here, reconnect it, and see if that will work. There we go. We might be off a tooth as far as the adjustment. Let's just go ahead and see if it goes all the way up here. So this is up and hold, and then let's just hit the auto down and see if that goes all the way down. And that looks good. So it looks like either I was right on, or that's very easy to reset. So again, what you do is you just go part way down, go up all the way, and hold it for a second, and then press the auto down function. Make sure it goes all the way down, and it does. So we're good to put everything back together. Okay, we'll pull that switch back off, and then we can just snap everything back into place. This is just our motor connector. Just kind of line this back up, and usually you can just press it back on with this sticky stuff. Usually we'll just hold that in place. And remember, this just has a little plastic snap right there, and the same thing right there. Continue to snap this in place, and then our speaker was also disconnected, so we'll just press that in right there, come down around, press this all back down. Just make sure that's all tucked in. Now we can put the door panel back on. Okay, so we'll just grab this connector here for our light in the door. You can see this also has this right here that kind of popped out fairly easily, but we'll see if that'll stay. And then here in the front is our speaker connector right there. And then we can put our door back on. That's fairly simple. Just press it in, line up everything. Just like that, just make sure that you get the metal flange all the way over the flange in the door. And then we can put in these two screws here. And these little circles just snap back into place. Like that. Now these snaps in the perimeter, you can just go around and just press them in till you hear a snap on each one. And then we can put these 10mm bolts back in through this handle support. And then these little plastic things just snap back into place like that. Now for our door handle trim, just pull the handle back. Remember, you've got this hook right here. So what you do is just pull out on the handle and then make sure that you press this part in first in the front. Make sure it hooks in there. There it is. And then the top and the bottom will snap into place like that. And then we can put that screw back in through the middle. And then last, we can connect our switch here. Of course, we've got our window switch cable right here. Just press it in until it clicks. And our mirror adjuster right here. So just press that in. And then I found these are easier to put in if you just go to the front first and then just press the back down like so. Give it one more quick test. Of course, it needs to be cleaned. Usually I'll just go up and down a few times just to make sure that there's no issues. Make sure you don't hear any weird noises inside the door or anything rubbing or anything like that, but it sounds good, works great. And you're done. Hope you liked the video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you don't mind. That does help me out. I'll put a link in the description where you can pick up this same motor as well. Thanks so much for watching, and good luck.